Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session, Biomedicine and Beyond, a student's perspective. My name is Hannah and I work at the University of Melbourne. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I am on today, the Wurundjeri people, as well as the traditional owners of the land that you are situated on, and acknowledge that Indigenous Australians have been custodians of the lands and waterways of Australia for thousands of years. I would like to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. In today's session, you'll be hearing firsthand from graduates of the Bachelor of Biomedicine about their experience in the undergraduate degree and where their degree has taken them now. If you have questions for our panel, please use the Q&A function, and we also have a team of staff working behind the scenes to answer your questions. The Bachelor of Biomedicine at the University of Melbourne is a unique degree designed for students who are interested in the biomedical sciences and is ideal preparation for a career in medicine and professional health. There are 15 majors available in the degree that you can see listed here. The degree has proven graduate outcomes, with most students progressing to a graduate health degree, with a third going straight into our university MD program. Others follow pursuits such as dentistry, biomedical research, or bioengineering, and a small but growing number combine the degree with graduate law, commerce, or management. You'll be part of a close-knit cohort experience in the biomedicine degree, both in the classroom and through the Biomedicine Student Society. You'll be studying and working in the largest biomedical precinct in the Southern Hemisphere. More than 40 hospitals, research, teaching, and biotechnology organisations surround the School of Biomedical Sciences, making it a highly sought-after base for global biomedical leaders. In 2021, we have introduced a guaranteed ATAR for the Bachelor of Biomedicine of 95. Domestic school leaver applicants who satisfy course prerequisites and achieve this ATAR will be guaranteed a place in 2021. Undergraduate course applications must be submitted through VTAC. Our graduate degree packages for school leavers bundle your undergraduate degree offer with an offer for a place in one of our specialised professional entry graduate school programs. You can choose to enrol in your desired undergraduate and graduate study pathway immediately after your final year of high school. So when you're applying through VTAC, you preference the graduate degree package that has its own unique VTAC code. On this slide, you can see the graduate degree package options with the Bachelor of Biomedicine and the required minimum ATARs, the minimum WAM, which is your weighted average mark, and some prerequisite subjects may also apply. Further information on graduate degree packages and entry requirements can be found on our website. Now we will be watching a short animated video on the Bachelor of Biomedicine, followed by a student panel recently recorded at our virtual open day, and then we will be hearing live from some more graduates for the second half of our session.
Are you inspired by the health experts guiding us through the current pandemic? Would you like to be one of them? The University of Melbourne's Bachelor of Biomedicine is ideal preparation for a career in medicine, health, and biomedical research. You'll study in the heart of Melbourne's biomedical precinct alongside the best and brightest, joining a worldwide network of healthcare experts. Choose from 15 majors and set yourself up for a Doctor of Medicine, dental surgery, physiotherapy, or optometry, or a research pathway that speaks to you. Many of our graduates also become successful lawyers, engineers, and business leaders. Wherever you're going, the Bachelor of Biomedicine will get you there.
So here today, we've got 3 of our Bachelor of Biomedicine graduate students who have all gone to pursue different pathways after their completion of biomedicine. So I would like to quickly introduce Alex, Kimberly, and Shireen. So perhaps, Alex, could you tell us briefly about yourself?
Sure, no worries. My name's Alex. I am a second year medical student at the University of Melbourne, so in the MD program. And I finished my Bachelor of Biomedicine as a 3-year degree, majoring in neuroscience.
Kimberly?
My name's Kimberly. I am in my third year of the Doctor of Physiotherapy. I completed my Bachelor's of Biomedicine in 2017, majoring in human structure and function.
How about you, Shireen?
Hi everyone, I'm Shireen. I did a 4-year Bachelor of Biomedicine with a concurrent diploma in Spanish and Latin American Studies. I majored in biochemical biotechnology, and I'm currently in my second semester of my first year of the Master of Public Health.
Thanks, Kimberly, Alex, and Shireen once again for joining us today. So we will begin this session with just tapping into why did each of you decide to do biomedicine at Melbourne? Like, what made you choose biomedicine first of all, and why did you decide to do it at the University of Melbourne? Perhaps, Alex, if you would like to share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, sure. So I guess those two questions kind of go hand in hand together for me. When I was graduating high school, I was a local student from Australia, and I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to pursue medicine or another area of health. I knew that I was interested in neuroscience, and I wanted to follow down that path in some way. And what appealed to me about Melbourne Uni is that I could kind of explore my interests a little bit more, do this more general degree within human biomedicine before committing myself to a certain path. And for me, that worked out really well because it meant that I could see which areas of human biology that I liked and which ones I didn't like as much.
What about yourself, Shireen? Like, what made you decide to study biomedicine? Like, what was that interest that sparked in you?
I think for me, there was quite a lot of influence from the medical side with my family. And I really did love biology and chemistry in school. So I decided to study biomedicine at Melbourne Uni because, quite frankly, I didn't really know what I wanted to major in just yet. And I found that the biomedicine course, from first year, they make you take core subjects that enable you to choose whatever major you'd like. I think 13 to 15 different majors come second year. So it was really great because I was quite fickle-minded initially. So very similar to what Alex shared. So yeah, it's been a pretty great journey.
What about yourself, Kimberly?
I think I can definitely echo what Alex and Shireen said in terms of having my options open through the biomed course. Just being able to choose my graduate pathways, not having it locked in stone from my first year, but also, like Shireen mentioned, you get core subjects that you have to do in biomed, and for me, I didn't really want to go through the whole course handbook and decide on different subjects and making sure that all the prerequisites were met. And in biomed, it's a very solid structure in terms of, like, first year you've got all these core subjects that you have to do, which will meet the prerequisites for the next year. So yeah, that was really helpful for me.
And it's also worth mentioning for the people at home that aren't quite as sure if they're strong enough at the sciences or if it's the right degree for them. I would only really encourage the fact that I didn't really consider myself a sciencey student in high school. I was more interested in humanities, languages, that sort of thing. And I felt like even so, the biomedicine degree was at a level where there's enough introduction that you can build up no matter what your background is. If you have the prerequisites for the degree, then that's sufficient.
So let's talk a little bit more about the subjects and the major that you studied during your biomedicine degree. Perhaps, Kimberly, could you lightly touch on that?
Yeah. Since I majored in human structure and function, most of my third year subjects were around anatomy and physiology, which was really, really helpful for my physio course because, like, you just get such a good understanding of the human body, and it made my first year a little bit easier than my peers who didn't do anatomy and physiology. But that was just the first year. But those subjects aside, the broader core subjects that involved the different domains of health science, like microbiology and pathology, even though they're not the main focus of physiotherapy, it does give me that broader understanding of the human body and health in general, which really helps my understanding of the patients that I see out in the hospitals. And I think that's really, really useful.
What about yourself, Shireen?
Well, for me, a lot of my subjects were actually really lab-based. I did techniques in molecular science, advanced techniques, which I loved so much because it was a huge focus on biochem. But the subject that really stood out to me the most was biotechnology in practice because it offered a really interesting insight to the industry, which I don't think was addressed much during the rest of the degree. And I really got to learn more about like IP law, innovation, a lot of the emerging practices that are happening right now in biotechnology. And it's something that I would really consider pursuing in the future because I hope to go into policy and regulation. So this definitely provided a lot of insight and I really enjoyed it. And I highly recommend the subject.
Thanks, Shireen. All right, we will talk a bit more about how the Bachelor of Biomedicine actually prepared each one of you in your different degrees at this point of time. Maybe Alex, could you just briefly share, like, how did the Bachelor of Biomedicine prepare you for the Doctor of Medicine? Like, we do know that a lot of biomed students are very interested in the end goal of pursuing the Doctor of Medicine.
Yeah, it should almost go without saying that a biomedicine degree really is one of the best things you can do in advance for a medical degree. And that's, I think, in both direct and indirect ways. The direct way is very obvious. I mean, it provides a sort of foundation level of science and medical knowledge. So diseases and processes and such that I learned in biomedicine are things that I directly use every single day when I'm studying medicine, understanding the biochemistry, the biology behind cancer, understanding how genetics works, things like that. And then there's also the indirect way. I think that this is something that's often overlooked, but having done and studied something at a tertiary level before entering medicine helps you mature a lot of the way before studying medicine. And really for students that aren't quite 100% sure if medicine is what they want to do, then this is a very good way to sort of figure that out. And at the start of my degree, I wasn't sure where I wanted to end up, but by the end of it, I definitely knew. One other point that I want to make too, without taking up too much time, is something a lot of people ask is if there's a certain major or anything that you should do for preparing for medicine, or if there's a particular route you should take in biomedicine.
We always get that question, so please address that.
The answer is there's no like magic bullet or certain major that you should pick. Really, you should pick what you're good at and you'll succeed more in doing so. Everything that you learn in a medical degree will help you to become a doctor eventually, and sure, you might find small ways to get a leg up in the way that Kim was talking about with her HSF major, but there's no one certain thing that's correct.
Thanks, Alex. Shireen, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, there was one subject that really stood out to me that really made me want to do public health, and that was Frontiers of Biomedicine. It was very public health focused and kind of shifted away from like the linearity of like we have one definitive cause of a disease. It looks at like the social determinants of health and how all these different aspects affect one's diagnosis and the onset of disease itself. And we also touched on like policy, things like tobacco policy, which I found really fascinating. So yeah, that was something that really nurtured me into making my decision to pursue what I'm pursuing right now.
Touching on something that helped with postgrad, aside from the knowledge you gain, is I think biomed, it's pretty well known that it is a full-on course. But in terms of having that work-life balance or study-life balance, it really helps to kind of sharpen your scheduling or managing skills, where you can definitely still have a really good social life as long as you just work around your timetable that way. And it really helps with postgraduate study because it just gets more intense for me at least. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think as we progress through the years in your degree, it definitely gets more intense, and you probably get busier as well due to placements.
Yeah, of course. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think for me, my journey through biomedicine was quite convoluted because I initially started really loving biology and chemistry. And then because we have we have to do math subjects as our core. We have to do math for biomedicine and biostatistics. I ended up loving stats. So currently in public health, I'm planning to actually major in health economics, looking into statistics, econometrics, things like that, things I didn't even anticipate doing at all. But I'm really grateful that my undergrad really prepped me for it. And through my undergrad, I actually decided to see one of my lecturers and ask him, I really love the work you're doing. Like, how can I be more involved in this? Like, what would the career path be like? So I think really leveraging on the network that you have would be great, just to give you a bit of guidance. And he said, look into the Melbourne School of Population and Global Health. So right now I'm looking to focus on policy, hopefully mental health policy, because that's where my passion is, but also looking into maybe things like taxation. Kind of boring, but it's just what interests me. But yeah, looking into doing that right now. My electives this semester are going to be population and global mental health and a few other health economic subjects. So I think it's a little unconventional from the traditional post-grad venturing into further health sciences, but I think it's really good to know that there are other options that you can explore. And I honestly only realized that these are my interests come third year. So I think it's good to just take your time to really explore your options out there.
Yes, that's very true. Thanks for sharing, Shireen. So yeah, we've got heaps of other graduate study pathways that biomed graduates can consider after they complete their degree. So I think that's the beauty of the Bachelor of Biomedicine. So a lot of our students actually kind of started discovering their other passions or their other interests through breadth even, or through their third year subjects. So we've got students who have gone on to the non-conventional pathways, such as even law or education, teaching, or even business. So some other graduate pathways in health that we offer within the faculty include nursing, social work, clinical audiology, dentistry, and many others. So feel free to visit our website for a full list of our graduate study pathways.
There's a small little anecdote I want to share. In one of your first biology lecturers, you might have a lecturer ask something like, raise your hand if you think you want to study medicine or be a doctor. And you might see 90% of the class put their hand up. And the amount that changes over the next 3 years of your degrees is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think what I previously mentioned is that students may start developing different areas of interest or even passion as they progress to their second and even their third year. What are some of the challenges that you faced transitioning from the Bachelor of Biomedicine to a postgrad degree?
I guess comparing to undergrad, there's a lot more independence that's expected of students. There's a lot of independent studies and stuff like that. And as opposed to just, testing your theoretical knowledge, there's a lot of soft skills involved, like communication, working in teams, and just a lot of problem solving that you have to do. So one of the benefits though is, at least for physio, it's a much smaller cohort. I think in biomed there were 600 of us, but in physio there was only about 100. So there's that familiar setting, really like a sense of family. So you do feel more supported. So for me, all of the independent study and stuff like that, the teamwork, it was all done with my peers, and it's just, you get to go through it with a group of people that you really connect with. And I think that's one of the highlights of physio for me.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Yeah, you see a lot of people throughout your years where you see them on the first day of biomedicine. Now again, I'll see them on the wards when I'm in hospital. So the continuity is definitely there. And that's also something inherent with the biomedicine degree, because you're all sharing subjects. You'll be seeing these faces over and over, and it's a great way to make friends. In terms of the question about challenges in postgrad, I couldn't agree more with what Kimberly was saying. It's really these soft skill things. So in my case, it's very similar, because we need to have skills such as interviewing a difficult patient, performing physical exams. And it's a totally different style of learning in my postgrad, at least, compared to what it was from pretty much prep through to third year of uni. And that's something that you just kind of have to take head on.
Yeah, like I understand with all these different challenges for different programs, but are there resources available for you? Like, do you have senior mentors or senior students that you can usually reach out to?
Yeah, 100%. And the student societies are so good for that as well, not only in undergrad biomed, but specifically in my MD studies. There's always tutors from the year above who volunteer their time completely free. They'll show you the ropes, they'll teach you the little hidden tricks that nobody tells you, and that support is always available.
Thanks, Alex. What about yourself, Shireen? What were some challenges you initially faced when you commenced your postgrad degree?
I think similar to what Kimberly said, it's basically there's a lot being expected of you to just be independent in your learning. We're given a lot of readings. So I think planning your week is incredibly important just so you don't stretch yourself out too thin and you just have an idea of what's expected of you. But similar to what Alex said, we do have a lot of support. One of the first things that was told to us when we started our degree was that, eventually the people in this room are going to be your colleagues. So the best thing you can do is just get to know them, like be familiar with them, like work with each other. Because nothing really is ever achieved if you try to do things yourself. It's really good to just make use of all the help around you at the end of the day.
So what are some tips you have in mind, Kimberly, that you may find relevant for future students who are considering biomedicine at Melbourne?
I think this will kind of be something that Alex would say, but also just keep your options open. It's okay to not be sure from the very start. And that's why you get 3 years in undergrad. You can kind of test the waters a little bit. And I think it's really important to discover your passion and then go with your passion, because that just makes everything more enjoyable, makes it a little bit easier as well. You might even, because you're probably going to be good at it. And if you're ever unsure or you need help, don't be afraid to reach out. Uni is such a supportive environment.
Yes, there are lots of resources available, so all you need to do is ask.
Yeah.
All right, Alex, you need a different answer.
Yeah, it made it so difficult for me. Really well said. Couldn't agree more. 2 more words: get involved. I think that people sometimes fear that the more commitments they make, the more difficulties they'll have with their studies. But I feel like in my experience, what I tended to see is that the students that were involved a lot outside of just university, so that they were the president of the student society or they did debating on the side or all these sort of things, will just help you be a more well-rounded individual. So being involved at university isn't necessarily a bad thing, and try and commit to lots of different things.
I think it's also really important to make sure that you pace yourself. I know that the degree is 3 years, but if you're encountering any difficulties, it's totally fine to space it out and take a bit more time to complete it in 4 years even. There's so much support available to you, and honestly, it really helps to talk about things. Chances are that someone else is feeling exactly how you're feeling. So there is a lot of support available. And more than anything, you are the person who's in charge of your experience at the end of the day. There are all these opportunities available. And I think there's so much to learn and so much to gain from really just putting yourself out there.
Hi everyone, good morning. This is Shui here, and I'm from the University of Melbourne, Faculty of Medicine, Dentistry and Health Sciences. Okay, so before we begin our live Q&A panel discussion with two of our current graduate students, I would like to remind all of you who are listening in today that you could pop your questions in via the Q&A channel, and we will try our best to answer them live. If not, my fellow colleagues will be answering them behind the scenes. Okay, let's begin. Perhaps Keith and Jess, would you want to briefly introduce yourselves, like what you're currently studying or what you're currently working on? Perhaps Keith, would you like to begin?
Yep. So hi everyone, my name is Keith. I am currently a postdoc, so I'm a researcher at the Doherty Institute. I've recently, very recently, just finished my PhD. And before that, I did the Bachelor of Biomedicine and graduated back in 2014. So very, very many years ago, but still at the uni and still loving it. So I major in immunology. Yeah.
Yourself,
Hi everyone. So my name's Jazz. I'm currently in my second year of the Doctor of Medicine this year. I'm doing my placement at Goulburn Valley Hospital in Shepparton. Just ran away from a ward round, so I'm just getting settled now. But I did biomedicine as my undergrad, and like similar to Kate, I majored in immunology as well.
All right, thanks Jess and Kate for taking the time to join us today, despite your busy schedules. So before we go on to some questions that we get from the audience, perhaps the both of you could just briefly share why did you decide to do biomedicine at Melbourne? Jess, would you want to
go
take it
first?
first?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I decided to come to Melbourne for a few reasons and decided biomedicine for a few reasons. So I'm originally from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. So I moved interstate to come study down at Melbourne. And as someone who was interested in, the health sciences and particularly wanting to pursue medicine, I thought that I had a look at the biomedicine course and it sort of covered a lot of things that I thought prepared you pretty well for whatever health science degree I was looking to pursue, like whether that be medicine or public health or whatever it was. I found it was a really good course that set you up for one of those postgraduate pathways. I think I was sort of tossing up between science and biomedicine. I think I liked the way that biomed was structured in that you, your first year, you've got 3 set subjects per semester, and then you have flexibility with one. And then as you sort of go through your course, you get more and more flexibility, but I liked the set subjects that they were. And I guess specific to Melbourne, I really liked the fact that you could take on board like breadth subjects, so subjects that you do outside your field of study. So I was also interested in law and education, that sort of thing. So I took my breadth subjects as an opportunity to explore those other interests I had before I sort of tied myself into pursuing medicine, which I ended up doing. But I found that, those were the main reasons why I decided biomedicine at Melbourne.
Thanks, Jess. And yourself, Kate?
Yeah, I think for me, it's very similar to Jess. So I was always interested in the health sciences and in biology. Like VCE biology was probably my favorite subject. So, coming into Melbourne Uni, the fact that we're sort of located within the Parkville precinct, for those of you who don't know, that's sort of this area where a lot of research institutes and hospitals gather. So the quality of science that goes on here is really, really quite top notch. And yes, I also was sort of tossing up between science and biomed. And I think a lot of the reasons I did end up choosing biomed was because I was interested in a very health science focused area. And the fact that, within the biomed degree, you do sort of cover a whole range of health sciences, and then you decide what you want to do afterwards. So that was really helpful. And I also just really liked Melbourne Uni, like as a place. I've been here technically for about 10 years now, so still here. All
right, thanks, Kate and Jess. So there was this question from the Q&A chat in regards to what other programs can biomed graduates go into? Is it just the Doctor of Medicine? So to answer the question, no, it's not just the Doctor of Medicine that's available to you as a grad study pathway. As you may have watched in the video, there are various grad pathway options available. So that includes physiotherapy, medicine, of course, dentistry, public health, nursing science, social work, and the list goes on and on. Perhaps, Keith, could you maybe briefly share in regards to where did some of your fellow biomed cohort mates went on to after their degree?
Yeah. As you would have heard in the video before, a lot of people do end up wanting to do medicine, but it's actually crazy the other opportunities that are available. I have a few friends in clinical audiology, which I think Sri mentioned in the video as well. So that's sort of looking at people's hearing, the whole allied health aspect, physiotherapy, clinical audiology, speech pathology. That's all very valid options following biomedicine. I know a few friends who became patent lawyers. So they went on to study law and then study patenting with biotech and biomedical applications. I have a few friends doing who did the Masters of Teaching, and they're now teaching. A lot of people like myself, end up going into research. So yeah, I don't think you're sort of limited. I think what's really cool about the biomed degree is the skills that you get out of it, because biomed is sort of really quite demanding. So you really learn to work really smart and work really well to sort of cope with that workload, and being able to do that means that when you go out to look for a job, you can show your employers that, hey, look at all these skills and look at how great I am in doing all of this, So I think there are a lot of valid options. You don't have to stay within science. Some people go on to do commerce stuff. The world's your oyster, really.
Yeah, we've got quite a number of students who went on to pursue other pathways, such as teaching, commerce, education, or even law. So quite a number of our students kind of discovered this other areas of interest through breadth. So breadth is an area of study that you do outside of your discipline. Perhaps, Jess, would you want to talk a bit more about breadth? What subjects did you do? I know you mentioned that you did some law subjects. So how did you find them relevant in what you're currently studying? Feel free to talk about your other breadth subjects.
Yeah. So I ended up doing a few. I kind of used my breadth strategically to sort of explore those other interests that I had in the back of my mind aside from health sciences. And so I did a few law subjects. So I did law and society and punishment and social control, which sort of looked at the justice system and minority groups within the justice system and like just how we define criminals and all that sort of stuff. So it was really interesting. And I also was sort of interested in education. So I did some public health and education subjects, and I love sports. So at uni, I played a lot of different sports for both uni and college. And so I did like some fun subjects like sports coaching, which was great. So I found that like, I guess, with medicine, you sort of end up interacting with people from all walks of life. So I definitely draw on different experiences in my life that aren't necessarily directly focused on medicine. So have brought up, I guess like things that I've learned from my law subjects and my sporting subjects. And so I guess the things that I did learn in my breadth definitely, I guess, not only allowed me to explore my interests, but also, I guess, have a broader, I guess, I don't know, just understanding of things and just a broader perspective on things, I guess. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, Jess and Keith. Okay, now let's just move on to the next topic. We'll talk a bit more about how did the Bachelor of Biomed prepare the both of you for your current course of study. I know for yourself, Keith, you have recently graduated from the PhD. Huge congrats to you. Perhaps you could just briefly share your journey, how you went on to do your honours year after your Bachelor of Biomedicine. We had quite a number of questions in regards to honours. So could you just talk a bit more about your honours year, followed by why did you decide to do a 4-year PhD after?
Yeah. So a lot of people, when you sort of listen from movies and stuff, you hear about a degree with honors. At Melbourne Uni, when you do honors, it's a competitive entry 4th-year program. So it's 1 year of research. So you do a little bit of coursework subjects at the start, but the year is mainly focused on research. And that's what I did. So after my 3rd year in biomed, we did this subject called molecules to malady. It's still my favorite subject at uni. I'm not sure if Jess agrees.
Jess smiling.
Molecules to malady, basically, it was a subject that sort of looked at from the very basics of a disease, and what is the disease symptoms, and what are the current managing approaches for it, and what is the current research field, right? So we had a lot of current researchers come in for that subject to give us a lecture, and it was really cool, hearing what they have to present, and they showed us some new data that hasn't been published, and it was really exciting to think about how that could sort of change how the field works. So I got really interested in that, and I looked into an honors year, did my honors year in immunology, and I continued onto my PhD from there. So that Bachelor of Biomedicine, that final year core subject really pushed me towards looking into research and sort of thinking critically about the different problems that we have for different diseases, let it be cancer, infectious diseases, whatever it is. And then sort of make you think about what is the best practice to go forward from this, not necessarily just from a bench side lab-based research, but also from a public health sense, what are the current management strategies? What needs to be done to lower the rates of infection and all of that. So it's really cool to sort of start thinking about that kind of stuff. And then, throughout my PhD, it's just been a big of a whirlwind. Research is very different. It's, I don't think at high school I was exposed to research a lot. So, being in undergrad and sort of taking those times in biomedicine to really understand what research is like was very helpful.
Thanks, Keith. So you're saying that there is that opportunity to pursue research within the biomed degree itself. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It is actually one of the big focus, because it's the idea that you can't just do biomedicine. Everyone does medicine. You need someone who works behind the scenes so that you can deliver that medicine.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. And yourself, Jess, would you want to tell us a bit more about how biomed prepared you for medicine? Medicine is a very popular pathway for our students.
It is a very popular pathway, but like Kit said, it's important to remember that it does prepare you for a lot of different pathways. So, I've had mates who've been down the research path, or who've gone into physiotherapy or dentistry or optometry. Like there's definitely a lot of different pathways. And the good thing about it is that it does set you up for all those different pathways, and that you do cover, your physiology, your anatomy, all your basic like biology, chemistry, physics, all that it's covered, and you sort of build on what you learn in previous years, which is really good. In terms of how it prepared me for medicine, I'd say it prepared me with like a solid knowledge base to then tackle that grueling MD 1 year with, because at Melbourne, you have your first year of medicine is you learn all your theory, whereas a lot of other unis spread that theory across 2 years. So I feel like covering all the anatomy, the physiology, and me doing an immunology major with some pathology subjects, that set me up really well for that big year of theory, and which is necessary, because like now being in my clinical year, you do really need to know your stuff before being able to go about the wards and like be in the hospital talking to patients if you don't really know, I guess, the foundations and know your stuff, I guess. So I think I also found biomedicine was quite hectic in that, you do have a lot of hours, and if you want to do things outside of study, which I certainly did, like in terms of I like to play sport, spend time with family and friends, work, volunteer, all that sort of stuff. I feel like it really helped me develop those time management skills and prioritization skills that come in very handy as you progress through your degree, and also just through life. I don't really believe in a work-life balance. I think it's just a matter of making things work and prioritizing as you go. And I felt like the biomed definitely helped me to have those time management skills, which I really rely on nowadays. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Kate and Jess. I've noticed that both of you mentioned that biomed is quite a stressful degree when it comes to the number of subjects and hours that you put in. Could you talk a bit more about the various support services that are also available for our students? And perhaps Kate, would you want to start?
Yeah, so it is a stressful subject, sort of stressful course. And I think when I did it, it was a very small course. So I think there were only about 400 people in my course for the year back then. But throughout the whole thing, because you have these core subjects within the degree, it's very easy to keep seeing the same people. So you really start to form a very strong support group, a very close-knit group of people to sort of work with. You discuss, you learn off each other. It's really important to remember that, the degree is very high achieving. So everyone who's in the degree has done really well. So you're really surrounded by really bright-minded people. Actually, the whole university has a lot of bright-minded people, but more so in biomedicine, right? So, you have that degree. If you don't understand something, chances are one of your peers will. There's a lot of collaborative discussion boards that you can do in your subjects. I think Jazz will touch on the Biomedicine Society. That's something that's really big, and all members of biomedicine really take a lot from that. There's a lot of teaching support services at the uni as well. So, you know, while we are sort of saying that it is quite stressful, there's a lot of time management involved. It's not impossible to do other things. Like I did a bunch of volunteering. Jess said she did a bunch of sports. We both worked at the uni while, you know, we were doing our degree. So it's not, you know, like, oh, wow, it's so much that I need to do. I don't have time for anything else. You just, as Jess said, got to prioritize, and you sort of learn and develop those skills while you're here. And yeah, there's heaps of support that you can go for.
Thanks, Kate. And yourself, Jess?
Yeah, I think like based on my personal experience, I sort of drew from the informal support. So like, you know, just finding a good group of people around me and forming study groups and sort of supporting each other through those stressful assessment periods was the way that I sort of went about things. I think if you're at college, you have extra academic support there. So you have your own tutors that were on tutorials every week for you, and you can sort of ask them any questions because they usually live at college with you. And so I found that was a huge support, and that really helped fill in any gaps in knowledge after any lectures or any tutorials that I was confused about. But I guess in terms of the formal supports, you know, there's Stop One, so I guess you could always reach out for extra support there. I'm sure you could talk a bit more about that. So Kate mentioned also the Biomedicine Student Society. So so the society is really great for, I guess, like holding events for you to meet other people, and you know, by meeting other people, you can form your study groups or just like, you know, your social circles, and you end up going through those tough times and assessment periods together. So yeah, that was a big support for me throughout biomedicine.
I think another thing as well with the Biomedicine Student Society, they also run a lot of mentoring and sort of peer support, in the sense that, you know, second year students will sort of let first year students know what the second year subjects are like. They might give you some tips and tricks, and then third year will help the second year and so forth. So there's a lot of like giving back to the community. And that's one of the things I really love about Melbourne Uni and the Bachelor of Biomedicine, is that there's this really strong sense of community, and everyone's sort of in it together.
Thanks, Kate. So would you say that the third year or the final year students are quite easily accessible to the students who are studying in first year?
Yeah. So I know, obviously, the main point of contact will be someone. You have representatives for the Biomed Student Society, and it's usually well published, well known who the people are. And you can always just email the society, and they can refer you to someone else. So there's a lot of that, and a lot of the different subjects and sort of different faculty areas do that as well. Sort of have info sessions for people to come and ask questions. So there's a lot going on. Sometimes you just got to know where to find it.
Yeah, so thanks, Kate and Jess, for sharing. So Jess did mention that there is this Stop One that's available on campus. So Stop One is basically like a one-stop shop that all our students can go to if they've got any questions, or if they require support in regards to areas from timetabling, managing your subjects, course planning, housing, to even mental health and well-being, as well as psychological services. So if you do encounter any problems, or would like answers to your questions, you just have to reach out to Stop One. So Stop One is located on campus, but we do offer online chats as well for those who can't make it on campus to meet Stop One. So Kit and Jess, you did mention that you did talk about the Biomed Student Society. What other clubs and societies are available on campus that our students can join? Perhaps Kit, I know you're quite active on campus.
I sort of made myself join a lot of things because I really wanted to sort of stress that, you know, being at uni, the whole idea of it is the experience and the opportunities. The degree is great, don't get me wrong. You know, you need the degree. The formal education is awesome, but you know, there's so many things that you can do at uni that really makes your experience so much better. So clubs and societies is one of it. We have over 200 clubs at the university, and you know, that can range from just the student clubs like Biomed Student Society, Art Student Society, to more cultural clubs, to really fun random things like Chocolate Lover Society, Food Interest Group. There's a Star Wars Pirates Club. So, you know, there's a whole range of clubs that whatever you think of, there's probably a club for it. These clubs have almost sometimes have weekly meetings. It can be board games, it can be any sporting clubs. And if there is a club that you're interested in and it's not there, you can actually start a club yourself, as long as you've got like, I think it was 3 or 4 other people to join it, to start it up with you. So, there's a lot of opportunity for extracurriculars there. And obviously there's also a lot of work that can be done at uni, part-time work, casual work, volunteering. So, I could go on forever because there's so much that happens, and everyone really needs to sort of get into the idea that studying is really important, but you have to balance it out with some extracurriculars to really enrich that experience.
Thanks, Kate. And yourself, Jess? Were you active in any other clubs or societies on campus?
Yeah, I think I guess like moving from Queensland and I didn't like know anyone when I first came to the uni, so I thought the clubs and societies were a really good opportunity to get to know people outside the more academic setting. So I joined a few sporting clubs. So I played soccer and tennis and volleyball for the uni for a couple of years, and then which was awesome because I found sport was a really good really good stress outlet for me. It was a really good way to make new friends and I guess have a chat to people outside of the biomedicine cohort. I just joined other interest groups, so like the Coffee Lovers Society, and what else? Like the International Relations Society and Debating Society, there's just so many to choose from, and you can there's a few days throughout the year where all the clubs and societies set up stalls, and you can sort of have a bit of a taste of each one and see which ones you're most drawn to, and you can pretty much join as many as you want and be as invested as you want. So there's a lot of flexibility there, but for like anyone who comes to Melbourne Uni, would highly recommend clubs and societies because it really adds to that the whole uni experience, beyond the academic component. Allows you to sort of try new things and push yourself and broaden your perspective in terms of just life as beyond being a student, I guess. So and an awesome way to meet people, like especially if you're coming to uni and you don't know too many people, it will, after joining a few clubs and societies, that will definitely change.
Thanks, Kate and Jess. Yeah, I strongly agree. Being part of a club or society is really the quickest way to make new friends and even to expand your skill set and knowledge, because you will be given opportunities to, even maybe run your own events, lead your own teams. So there is the opportunity for that on campus. So we've got about 10 minutes to go till we wrap the session up. Feel free to keep your questions coming. Our team behind the scenes are working very hard to answer your questions. Perhaps, Jess, this is more of a question for you. Could you tell us a bit more about your residential college experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I stayed at college for 2 years. So that was my first 2 years of biomedicine. And for me, overall, it was an incredible experience. Some of my best mates now are those that I met at college. I guess moving into state, that was a big step for me. I just turned 17. I hadn't been away from home very much. It was a huge step, and I was from a pretty small country town relative to Melbourne City. So moving into the safe and supported environment of college was definitely, I think, the right move for me to ease into the transition to Melbourne. I found it's an amazing opportunity to make friends. On day one, everyone's in the same boat, and you end up spending so much time together because everyone's home away from home. It's a lot more. It's very convenient in that the location itself is very close to the uni, so everything was pretty much walking distance. And the college that I went to was catered, so I didn't have to worry about meal prep or cooking or anything. So that definitely gave me more time to, I guess, just adjust to a new environment. Make the most of my uni experience as well. In terms of joining clubs and societies and going to lectures and classes. So yeah, that was really good. And college has its own like sporting competitions and cultural competitions. So yeah, you end up just doing so much, and it's just such a overall really great experience. And as I mentioned earlier, you do also get extra academic support. So you do have, you know, on-site tutors who run tutorials with you pretty much weekly, or it can be multiple times a week as well. And you can run assessments by them. And yeah, I found that really, really helpful, especially in my first few years of uni, where I was still, you know, figuring things out and yeah, adjusting to the change between like uni and high school. Yeah.
Thanks, Jess.
Sorry, can I just jump in real
yes,
quick,
sure.
Sheree? So in that second half of the question, I saw that someone was wondering like what are the options for living at college or whatnot,
Yes.
or living closer to uni, because you know it's such a stressful degree and you don't want to spend time on public transport. I lived about an hour and a half to 2 hour commute time away from uni throughout my whole of undergrad. I had a lot of 8 a.m. lectures, which I went to. So it was like, you know, getting up at 6. And even though you might think it's really tiring, I actually found that time to be really good wind down time, because I was like, oh, I'm on public transport. I'm just gonna read a few things on my phone or like play a few games. I found a few friends who sort of lived down my way and we'd travel in together. So that public transport time can actually become like your wind down, chill out time. Or if you have a big test the day of, you know, in the morning, you can sort of read while you're on the train and whatnot. So, you know, don't think that just because it's a very stressful degree and you're living very far away, you have to move closer. Like if you are comfortable at home and you don't have to move out, you don't have to. It's very easy to deal with the commute once you sort of get used to it a little bit.
Thanks, Kit. I was just about to ask you that question because I know you live quite far away from campus. Okay, looks like we've got time for perhaps one more question that the both of you can take. So what are some tips and tricks that you may have for future Bachelor of Biomed students? Perhaps Kit, do you want to start?
All right. So I feel like I repeat this a lot because every time I do this, I stress this all the time. You know, it's to really make the most out of your time at university. You know, don't make your routine come to uni, go to lectures, go to tutorials, go home, because that's not how you should be spending your time at uni. Like I said before, formal education, great, but there's so much more here that will help you build your skills, meet new people, experience new things, and then that will sort of lead you towards finding more passion for what you're doing, and you find a reason for why you want to come to uni and why you want to do well. So you know, take that on board. You know, wherever you end up going for your further studies, make sure that you actually complement all your studies with other work as well. Obviously, if you're getting a bit overwhelmed, know when to step back for a little bit, but don't ever just ignore all of the ways you relax, the ways you have fun, the ways you work. It's really important to think of it as a whole package, because that's the best way to get through uni.
Thanks, Kit. And yourself, Jess?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Kate said, and I think it's really important to use uni as an opportunity to really push yourself. You know, there's a lot of opportunities that will arise, or you know, if you're a keen bean, there'll be a lot of opportunities that come your way. It's really important to you know, like just put yourself out there and see where these opportunities sort of take you. Like you know, through one of the clubs and societies, I ended up going to Kenya to help run a medical education program over there in rural and remote areas. And like, that was something that I never knew like I would end up doing. And I've, through like clubs and societies, also found my love of coffee, which is now something I can't live without. So it's definitely important to obviously you know, really make the most of whatever degree you end up choosing, and making the most of the, I guess, all the academic stuff that comes with that, but also really like enrich your experience with other things like the clubs and societies that we've spoken about, or you know, whatever opportunities come about as you know, progress through uni. And really, yeah, as Kate said, really take time to also look after yourself. You know, things can be quite stressful at times, and it's really important to draw on those things that really help you relax or help you reset, whether that's spending time with family or friends, or playing sport, or yeah, whatever it is, basket weaving, I don't know. Just, yeah, really don't underestimate the importance of keeping up those interests and those other things outside of study.
Yeah,
I think also one thing to note, sorry, one thing to note that, you know, we talk about how stressful and high achieving this degree is. I think everyone has to be aware that when you move from high school to uni, especially coming into biomedicine, your marks may not necessarily be the same as what you got at uni, and that is okay. You know, if your first test you come back and it's like 60% or whatever, like it's fine, because everyone struggles throughout the first couple of weeks because you're not quite sure. The way you study at uni is very different to what you do in high school, right? So, you know, you're still trying to figure out what's the best way for you. Like, do I listen to lectures and make notes, or do I just print my notes out and annotate? Do I go back and listen to the lecture recording again to solidify how I learn? A lot of times what you learn in 1 hour lectures might be covered over a few days at high school. So, you know, it's really important to give yourself that leniency and, you know, say it's okay, I'm struggling now, but I'm going to find ways to get better, because being at uni, it's about being independent and being self-driven, and, you know, not giving up as soon as something hard comes around. You know, we always find a way. In SWOT back the week before our exams, you see people cramming, you know, things people really push towards. Like for me, I went through about 10 weeks of physics at biomed, and I really didn't know what was happening at all. And in the final 2 weeks, it just sort of clicked, and I worked really hard, and I somehow managed to get a really good score for it, you know. So it's very different from studying at high school. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yes, thanks, Kate and Jess. Yeah, I agree with you, Kate. It is a very different experience altogether, like moving from high school to undergrad, and even transitioning from undergrad to postgrad. There are all different styles of learning and teaching involved. So we will try to get to your questions on the back end. My fellow colleagues are frantically trying to answer the last couple of questions that are coming through. But if you've got any further questions, feel free to send them through via our website. If you could get the link up, Ali. Yeah, so if you've still got questions, oh, not a website, sorry, our QR code. So feel free to scan our QR code, and it will bring you straight to our inquiries page. But other than that, I'd like to thank Jess and Keith for your time today, and have a good rest of the day, everyone. All right, bye, Keith, bye, Jess.
Bye.